Hello, I'm Malcolm Haslett. Have you ever heard of View? Well, it's an organisation all over Australia. And what's just happened to community TV? We'll find out a lot more on this episode of OurTime. Hello and welcome to OurTime. Our very special guest in this program is Kristen Hamill, who's the Development and Strategy Manager of Channel 44. Tell me what's been happening in community television lately, as if I don't know. Kristen,
Gosh,
welcome to our
what
time.
hasn't been happening in the last few months?
You must have been running crazy.
We were, and to say that it's been a crazy 6 months would be an understatement.
Well, first of all, we should explain, Channel 44 in Adelaide and 31 in Melbourne were to have lost their licence at the end of the financial year.
Yes.
And that was the fourth time that was muted to happen?
This extension has been our sixth.
Sixth?
Yes, since 2014, when the decision was originally made for us to move online.
And that originally came from Malcolm Turnbull, didn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Whatever happened to him?
Moved on to greener pastures.
But we're still on.
We're still here. We're still fighting.
We're still here.
Yeah.
Kristen, I have a vested interest, obviously, because we do this program and we're seen here in South Australia and also in Victoria. But the desire to have community television, to me, because we've lost so much local television with local stories, is so very important. What's your feeling?
Oh, it's so important for so many different reasons, both the platform for local voices, for underrepresented voices, but also as a training ground for the next generation of media professionals. You just don't get that experience
And this
anywhere
isn't
else.
just television, this is film as well.
Exactly.
And all forms of media.
Media communication students, graphic design students, we take in all kinds of interns and volunteers and give them that real world experience, hands-on experience that they can then take into their next job.
Yes. So first of all, do you know how long community television has been in Australia?
I believe it's about 25 years now.
Yep.
And here in Adelaide, it's had a few different renditions.
Well, it was a 31 originally, I think.
31, yep, and Ace TV before that.
Yep.
So it's had a long history here in South Australia as well, in Victoria. And up until a few years ago, community television existed in Sydney, in Brisbane, and in Perth, which recently closed. So we're one of two surviving community television stations, which, is a sad thing. But I think, we've been quite strong in our approach. And look, we're hoping to, at some point, when we move onto an online platform, try and invite those other program makers and producers from other states to join us in the online world. So we're hoping that we can open up doors for the rest of the country.
Then that basically covers everywhere, doesn't it? If it's an online situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're really online already, aren't you? Because you have an on-demand platform.
Yeah, we're actually across all the platforms that you can be online, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Vimeo. But right now, especially with this directive from the government to be moving into the online space, what we're going to be focusing on in the next year is building a proprietary online platform with us and Melbourne, C31 Melbourne, and that will really be the home of community television for us online.
Will that alter the individual states' sort of control over what is being produced locally?
No, not at all. No, it'll function the same way that it does now with the broadcast. And I think it'll open up more opportunities for people in other states and other regions to get involved.
Right, well, that would be great. You may not realise this, I guess, but back in the old days of television when I first started, because TV started in Australia in 1959, and I started doing television not long after that, believe it or not. I was only a baby at the time. But it was wonderful because local people had a voice locally, which meant that in every state and every major city, you could talk to the people who lived in that city and know that they could communicate directly with you. And that's been a great thing with community television because that really is what's existing now.
Exactly, and you don't really get that with some of the commercial networks. There is no local
Well, they can't.
content.
They can't possibly provide that, including the ABC, because their funds have been cut. It's a pity that they don't become part of community television.
I know.
They should be part of community television, really. So what is the future, Kristen? Where do you feel this is going to go? You've just already said that you're working towards the platform. But that means that people will have to pay to download it through whatever they're using.
No, it'll be completely free.
No, but they're paying for the internet.
Yes, there will be those costs.
And that's the difference, isn't it?
It is.
Because now it really is free to air.
Yes.
And when we have to download it, we'll be using...
Yeah, and look, it will be a very sad thing if we switch off next year, because we know that we'll be losing a big portion of our broadcast audience, particularly older viewers that might not have access to the internet or don't have the skills to be able to stream content online or get it on their iPad or their computer. So what we're hoping to do in the next year is work with those groups as well and try and increase digital literacy and sort of open up the doorway for them to find content online and make it a little bit easier. But we're not naive and
Sure,
yeah.
But at the same time, is this the thin end of the wedge for all free-to-air television to go online?
I think it will be that in the next, I mean, we're already seeing it happening and we're seeing the way that people watch TV changing.
Sure.
So I think it will.
Certainly in the last few months, obviously, it's changed dramatically. But it doesn't mean it needs to be that way forever, really.
No. But what we've also seen is that there's a huge demand for local content now. With the COVID restrictions, people want to know what's going on in their backyard. They don't want to know what's going on across the pond. They want to know what's happening here in Adelaide. And that's something that we really found with COVID, particularly with multicultural groups and religious groups that couldn't have the people that would come to church or come to their places of worship inside. So they came to us for broadcast services as a way of connecting with those audiences. So we know that local content is so important, and it's something, we're going to look towards with the online platform.
Well, because it's here.
Yeah.
Really, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's people from here talking to people from here.
Exactly.
I think this connection with local communities, though, across the board is becoming a very important thing that maybe we're just going to start to rediscover. We've been so happy to sort of go along with whatever's on telly or wherever it's on telly, or whether you're downloading something or you're watching any of the other free-to-air stations. But now it just seems, as you said, to be more important to know what's going on in our own town. So you've come to this from a different background, though, really, but from a media background.
Yeah, from a journalism background. That's I'm from the US. I'm from Boston.
No, you'd never have guessed.
Some people think I'm Irish. Not sure
Oh,
why.
I thought
but
Victor Harbour, personally.
So
Geelong, maybe.
I came from the US from a journalism background and found myself in Adelaide a few years ago.
Came for a year.
Came for a year, and
6 years
we're
later.
rounding up 6 years now. So
You must like it here.
Adelaide's a great place to live, and it's so undervalued. I don't think people understand how lucky they are to live here. You've got the beach, you've got the hills, you've got the wine regions. It's affordable. It's the great people.
Well, it's the same in both cities. Melbourne's got the same.
Yeah.
We've got the same. It's not that far even from Melbourne to get into the Dandenongs and to just enjoy living.
It's an incredible country and an incredible city. So, yeah.
So what are your plans for the future? To ride this until it's resolved, do you think?
Yeah, so as I said, the next year is really going to be focusing on the online platform and looking at our business model too, because our business model does revolve around broadcast as being an essential part of how we make money and how we fund ourselves. Because we get no funding, no core funding from the government.
And this is what but you pay for a license.
We pay for a license, we pay for broadcast fees.
Yep.
So we're completely self-funded. So this was not an issue of the government wanting to shut us down because we were costing them too much. That's
costing them nothing.
Costing them nothing.
That's why I can't get my head around why. Is it the broadcast bands, the wave bands, the whatever it's called?
The spectrum.
The spectrum.
Yes.
Oh, I'm on the spectrum.
So the government does have plans for the spectrum. We don't know what those plans are. They won't share that with us. But what we do
Broadcasting Parliament, that would be riveting.
Perhaps. Who knows? Who knows what it could be? But
if they're ever sitting.
Our argument has always been, while you're not using the spectrum, allow us to keep broadcasting.
Absolutely.
Look at all the good that we're doing.
But is this going to affect community radio as well, do you think?
No.
So why television and not radio? That doesn't make a great deal of sense either.
That's the question of the day. We don't know. know. We really don't know. But, you know, our argument has always remained the same with the Federal Minister for Communications, that if you're not using it, let us keep broadcasting.
Is there an upsurge in the public that needs to occur to say, we think this is really important to have?
I think it's always good for the public to speak their minds.
Well, the politicians work for us.
Yes, and not a lot of people think to call their local MP or, you know, the Minister for Communications. But if you watch Channel 44, if you think that community media is important, please write to your local MP. Please write to Minister Fletcher. We had a huge outpouring of support.
Well,
this
I
time.
did.
Yeah.
I wrote to Minister Fletcher and I got a stock reply that nothing happened with. And that was frustrating for many reasons, because we've been doing this for quite some time, this program. And in a way, as communicators, we also deserve some information to let us know,
Absolutely.
you know, what our future's going to be as well.
Yeah.
Kristen, fingers crossed in every direction.
Thank you.
Can you just stay with us until the end of the program? I'm sure there's more we'd like to talk about.
Of course.
And we'll be back with something completely different in a moment to find out what View is. Welcome back to Our Time. Our next guest is Jennie Lee. And Jennie, welcome to Our Time. I have to ask you, how many View organisations are there around Australia? I was amazed.
Let me tell you, there's 15,000 women around Australia who belong to View. And there are View clubs in all different communities, whether they're small country communities or in the city. So it's a club that's been going for 60 years.
And I never knew, and when I'm 60, I might find out that.
Well, we've been going for 20 years here in South Australia.
Yeah, well,
so
I'm
it's
amazed.
Our anniversary.
Well, when I Googled View, which you should do, Google View, you'll be surprised because they're everywhere. I thought, what is this sort of for viewing something? What is this really? And then I realised what it was. Better that you explain.
Well, it's the largest women's organisation in Australia. It operates under the umbrella of the Smith family, and women come together once a month at a meeting, and it's the idea is for voices, the interest and the education of women, and operating under.
So that's View.
That's right.
Up here for thinking.
And the Smith family, under their umbrella, identifies that to bring young people out of poverty, the best thing that you can do is educate them.
Absolutely.
And so the Smith family runs programs to raise funds to sponsor children from primary school right through to university. And so under that umbrella, View clubs and the women of View raise funds to help to sponsor these students. And every View club raises the funds and sponsors a certain number of children. You know, some View clubs sponsor anything up to 13 young people.
Right.
And new View clubs, they might have one or two, but it builds up. And so they're the biggest organisation sponsor for the Smith family. And I think belonging to the Smith family is a really important thing because we have
Just explain the
role.
Smith family, because I must admit I've heard that quoted, but I really don't know what it is.
Well, the Smith family is a charity, and some 60 years ago, they decided to form an organisation for women.
So they're a family? They were?
No, they're a charitable organisation.
Right.
It's interesting, it runs along the lines that a group of gentlemen, I understand, decided that they would give funds to a charity. And when they were asked, oh, what name is it? They said, oh, we're Mr. Smith. And then the next person said, I'm Mr. Smith. So that's how it got its name.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, and View clubs, the women come together to do interesting things. So it's a women's service club.
Well, we've got a few photos that we can just flash through here.
They have fabulous fun at View. And the women come together for monthly meetings.
For this man.
Oh, now
You're
that's
all together
Dr.
for
Challenge.
this man, and I know why.
Yes, isn't he wonderful? He was our Australian of the Year last year, and he was the ambassador for the Smith family, and he attended the View convention up on the Sunshine Coast last year, and I think on that particular day he was the only man in the room.
Well, with all those hands up, I'm just wondering if they're trying to touch him.
I think they might. He's a very handsome man, and he also had a very interesting
Story
talk to give
tell.
to us. Oh, yes,
well, considering
he was
they
fascinating.
rescued all those boys, that was amazing.
Yeah, and these are some of the women having fun at the View Convention. That was our beach party night. And one of the things...
There's a fella up the back I can see.
He's in the band,
Oh,
yes.
a ring-in. You could have had an all-girl band.
We had a wonderful convention, and the women come together every 2 years, and I'm very proud to say that the next convention next year is going to be held here in Adelaide.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
So we'll be having women from all around Australia meeting here in Adelaide.
Fantastic.
And I think the most important thing about View too is that women can come together for fun and friendship. When I came back to South Australia to retire, I was trying to think, now what could I do?
Retire, that's a dirty word. We don't
What could I
use that
do
word.
to use some skills from my work environment, and what could I do to meet new friends here in Adelaide? Because I'd spent 32 years away from Adelaide. And I found View, and it was one of the best things. And I met so many different people.
Because we need that. We all need this human interaction. And also we need to feel useful, you know.
That's right.
And this is a wonderful, useful thing to do. There's some more shots we've got of some more girls having a good time here as well.
Yes, that's
What's
that's at
happening
the
here?
convention. They're all waving their hands. I think they're singing there.
It looks to me like they might be singing
Yes.
along with music.
That's our past president standing there. But if we move on to another shot and we'll have a look. That's doing a move and groove in the morning before the first session of the convention.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that
It's a bit of a
fabulous?
physical warm-up.
Yes, physical warm-up for the girls. That's standing at a trading table. That would have been at a View club. Not
And
at
this
the
would be how you're raising the funds,
That's
right?
right. That's right. But in between the View meetings, the women come together for book clubs, for walking groups, for fitness groups.
And for climbing over the bridge.
That's the group from Sydney.
What a lovely
Looks
shot.
fabulous, doesn't it?
Doesn't that look great?
There we go again, another trading table.
So this is what happens. So do people pay to be part of the group, or is it fundraising that occurs during the meetings, or is it trading
The
tables?
women pay a starting fee, a $20 membership fee, but then
Right.
after that we either raise funds through a raffle at the meeting or fundraising between meetings. But the meetings always seem to have a very interesting speaker on local issues. So
Right.
you'd relate to that, how important it is to learn about things that are happening in your hometown. So we have
Particularly
fabulous
community
speakers.
television. We
That's
should
right.
talk to you about
Yeah.
that.
That's right. So we have interesting speakers. The women come together for lots of different reasons. Mahjong club, as I said, book clubs, walking groups, keep fit groups. And during this pandemic that we've experienced, the girls have kept together through phone trees where people have been ringing each other to make sure that everybody's all right.
And what did you call that phone
A
tree?
phone tree. So you have the trunk of the tree and then all the different branches, and everybody has a responsibility to ring somebody else.
Oh, okay.
And just to make sure
Was
that
this
everybody's...
just a phone call or
Yes,
through
that's
Zoom
right.
or something?
No,
or-
that was a phone call.
Oh, okay.
But some of our meetings have been through Zoom. The committee meetings and the get-together for the development team have been Zoom meetings while we've been isolating. So we've kept in touch and we've kept the organisation moving along.
Fantastic. Where do you feel it's going? Is it just going to keep repeating this same sort of concept?
I think that we're going to see, I hope we're going to see some younger members joining. As women retire and leave the workforce, it's a wonderful opportunity to come together and use those skills that they've learnt or utilised while they were working.
But there's also the need for, I guess, after this pandemic eventually is over, for people to come back together again, because as human beings, I think that's the thing that everyone's now talking about, missing the communication we have.
A lot of our women are also on their own, and so it's an opportunity to get together with others at least once a month. And I think the other thing is the wonderful focus that we have, and that is educating young people to help them reach their full potential. And that is such a wonderful
That
aim.
absolutely is. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
And in our community, if you think back, say 50, 60, 80 years ago or whatever, communities were next door neighbours, people down the street, or, you know, if you lived out in the bush, people got together. Everybody did that just as a part of being human. But as time has changed and as things like the pandemic has changed everybody, now we almost need to organise to do those things, to be the auntie or uncle down the road
That's
sort of
right.
thing to young people. But this, I think, is so valuable because education is our future.
That's right.
Because the kids
And
are.
many of our ladies also help out at after-school programs,
Oh, right.
reading to children,
Yes.
helping them with homework, or being a mentor to a young person that's either at university or stepping out of university and going into the workforce. So many of our VIEW ladies are mentors or helpers.
Well, because when you think about it, there's so many people also from overseas that don't have a family here who are maybe studying, you know, in a community like we're in at the moment in a university. There must be a lot of people looking for some sort of, I don't know, gluing together
Yes.
that they're
Well,
missing.
we tend to make sure that we're working with the Smith family, working with the children that they are supporting, and then they go to after-school homework clubs,
Right.
and the VIEW ladies are there to help them out.
Right. Stay there while we just take a short break, and we'll be back in just a moment with a little bit more information about VIEW. Kristen Hamill from Channel 44 and Jennie Lee have been our special guests on this program, and they're still with us to answer one more question each. How do we find out about VIEW? How can we become a member? I suppose I'll have to have a sex change.
Yes, it's a women's organisation. However, if you'd like to know more about VIEW, go to the website. Just Google VIEW and go to the VIEW website. It's the best way to find out what club is closest to you.
Yes, I could not believe how many suburbs they're in.
There are.
I'm sorry, I was
yes.
absolutely gobsmacked when I saw.
And the other thing is, if you come along to a meeting, there's always friends out the front waiting to meet new people, and they'll introduce you to other people and sit with you during the day. So
Do I have to wear a
you'll
dress?
be very welcome. No, you don't need to wear a dress.
I'm just being
Not unless
silly.
you want to.
Sorry about that. No, but I'd recommend this. Honestly, I cannot believe, first of all, how many clubs there were, but also the good work that you do, raising funds for people who are underprivileged, children particularly, to take them through school and university. Just so valuable. Now, you must have had such a time a month or so ago, not knowing until the very last minute that you'd still be broadcasting. That's scary, isn't it?
Oh, it was terrifying. And it was the absolute last minute. It was 24 hours until we were due to shut off.
Well, 2 years before, we'd made a program to say goodbye.
Yes, yeah.
It did go to air, but not the night the way it was supposed to, but it did go to air eventually. And we knew at the time, because it was literally on the last night we were making the program, we just found out sort of before we started to make the program that it had been extended for 2 years. Now, I have to ask the question. I know you can't answer this because you're not the minister for all that. That meant broadcast, I think. No, communications?
Yep. Paul
communications.
Fletcher, federal. Yep.
Communications.
Communicating. Yep.
You don't know why they're really making this decision, do you?
No.
Because they don't need the wave bands or...
They don't need it right now. And whether they have a plan for it down the track, we want to keep going. Yeah.
So, you know, if you really want community television to continue, and I feel we should, what should we do?
Well, you can let your opinion be known. You can
I think I just did that.
Yeah, well, there you go. Write to your local MP, Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher. Tell him how important it is to you. And look, we'll exist in some form.
Yes, but why is it important to have free to air? That's the real question.
So many reasons. Freedom of voice.
You've got 15
training.
seconds.
Oh gosh, freedom of voice, training, diversity, all the things. Free entertainment. So I could go on and on.
It is.
Yeah, it's so important.
And it's sharing a life, and that's so valuable. To both of you, thank you so much for being part of this program. Thank you so much for being with us for this program. Yeah, you know, if you've enjoyed this bit of a chat, then do something about it. Let us know that you've enjoyed it by contacting the minister and saying, hey guys, you know, we'd really like TV to continue free to air. Until next time we meet, keep yourselves nice till then. We'll see you. Bye.